Good day to you from Inside Drug Discovery. This video describes a drug that was recently approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. The drug is INLURIYO. This video emphasizes the medicinal chemistry properties of the drug rather than clinical outcomes in patients. INLURIYO was approved on September 25, 2025. INLURIYO is approved for the treatment of ER-positive, HER2-negative, ESR1 mutant, advanced or metastatic breast cancer that continues to progress after at least one line of hormone therapy. The active pharmaceutical ingredient in INLURIYO is imlunestrant. The drug is administered orally once per day in a 400 milligram dose. The sponsor for the NDA is Eli Lilly. A link to the prescribing information insert of INLURIYO is shown at the bottom of the slide and can also be found in the video description. The indication for INLURIYO is certain types of breast cancer. On this slide, we'll discuss some of the qualifiers on the indication. First, INLURIYO is for ER-positive cancers. These are cancers with the presence of estrogen receptors. An activation of the estrogen receptors contributes to growth of the tumor. Second, INLURIYO is for HER2-negative cancers. HER2 stands for human epidermal growth factor receptor 2. HER2 levels are measured through an immunohistochemistry assay after biopsy of the tumor. An assay score of 0 or 1 is considered to be low. Third, INLURIYO is for tumors with ESR1 mutations. The ESR1 gene encodes estrogen receptors. If the patient tumor hits these three criteria, which are collectively fairly common, and the cancer is progressing after endocrine therapy, INLURIYO is a recommended treatment option. Before we leave this slide, I want to point out the reference, Microsoft's Copilot. Why would I use Microsoft Copilot as a reference for scientific information? Is it a video sponsor? No. Surely there must be more authoritative references. Yes, there are, but online resources that conveniently define these terms are very often websites that are promoting a specific treatment. So in order to avoid listing pharma-sponsored websites, for better or worse, I just went with AI. The target for imlunestrant, INLURIYO's API, is the estrogen receptor. According to IUPhar's Guide to Pharmacology, imlunestrant's IC50 on wild-type estrogen receptor alpha in MCF cells, a breast cancer cell line, is 0.3 nanomolar, so sub-nanomolar potency, quite impressive for a small molecule. Note that we are discussing wild-type ER-alpha, and patients taking INLURIYO will have mutant forms of the estrogen receptor, so potency in patients will vary. Imlunestrant binds the receptor and causes a conformational change, which leads to proteasomal degradation of the receptor. Imlunestrant is therefore not a typical receptor ligand, a standard agonist or antagonist. Instead, imlunestrant is classified as a SERD, a selective estrogen receptor degrader. Here are the physicochemical properties of imlunestrant. Imlunestrant does have two properties, molecular weight and log P, that violate Lipinski's rules, although INLURIYO is regardless an orally administered drug. This is a reason many people do not care for Lipinski's rules. Based on my limited experience, violations of the number of hydrogen bond donors and hydrogen bond acceptors seem to be much more predictive of whether a compound can be adequately orally absorbed. Imlunestrant is formulated as its tosylate salt, which is a less commonly encountered counterion. So this basic amine is protonated, and here is the tosylate anion. That's para-toluene sulfonate if you want to be more formal. I could not recall another approved drug that is formulated as a tosylate salt, but I found that Nexivar, another oncology drug, contains sorafenib as its API, and sorafenib is formulated as its tosylate salt. Imlunestrant has a quite long half-life at 30 hours. The impressively large volume of distribution certainly contributes to the long half-life. The bioavailability is not listed. Based on the physicochemical properties, I would guess that the bioavailability is on the lower end. Tmax is 4 hours, likely indicating absorption primarily in the small intestine. Plasma protein binding is extensive at over 99%. Imlunestrant undergoes both phase 1 and phase 2 metabolism. Phase 1 metabolism occurs primarily through CYP oxidation, likely on one of these electron-rich aromatic rings, or maybe through dealkylation of this ether oxygen. Phase 2 metabolism involves sulfation or glucuronidation of the phenolic OH group. The compound and its metabolites are almost exclusively excreted via the feces. Like all approved drugs, INLURIYO does have safety risks. The only warning in the prescribing information is embryo-fetal toxicity, and therefore at-risk patients are advised on effective use of contraception. Adverse reactions reported by at least 10% of treated patients include musculoskeletal pain, fatigue, and a variety of GI tract issues. A number of lab abnormalities are also associated with INLURIYO. That concludes this summary of the approval of the new drug application of INLURIYO, which was granted by the U.S. FDA on September 25, 2025. INLURIYO contains imlunestrant and is approved for the treatment of certain forms of breast cancer. Thank you for watching all the way to the end of the video. Please like, subscribe, or leave a comment. Take care.